All right, getting into section 3.2 today on cell organelles. And when we're talking about organelles, we are referring directly to the things that could be in eukaryotic cells, because remember, eukaryotes have membrane-bound organelles, including a nucleus, and that's the main separation that keeps them from being put in the same category as prokaryotes. So, first of all, the thing you need to understand that we didn't know about a long time ago is that cells really have a very complex internal structure. Excuse me. And that internal structure is composed of the cytoskeleton. So the cytoskeleton, just like the name itself says, it's the cellular skeleton. It has many, many functions, one of which includes that it supports and shapes the cell, that it helps position and transport organelles, right? We did say that we thought at one time that the organelles kind of floated around in a gel-like material, but it's actually the cytoskeleton, which acts like a scaffolding that holds those organelles kind of in place within the cell. It provides strength, which makes sense, right? That's what skeletons do. And so this made out of fibers, the cytoskeleton is made out of fibers that expand and stretch throughout the cell, and it gives strength to the cell. It also is involved in cell division. So all those little fibers rearrange themselves into a structure that is used to help separate chromosomes and the cell during mitosis and meiosis. And then finally, it aids in cell movement. So it can help with cytoplasmic streaming and the movement of cytoplasm, which helps the cell itself move, or as cilia or flagella in the cell. Now, in terms of organelles, there are lots of cells. The main job of the cell is to make products, right? All cells have jobs. And so those jobs typically come down to making some sort of protein that is going to do a job, whether that protein is a hormone or an enzyme or another kind of communication molecule. The cell's job is to make a protein. So it all starts in the nucleus with genetic information that contains the instructions for how to make proteins. Once those instructions get read, they get shipped out to the ER. Now the ER is otherwise known as the endoplasmic reticulum. So right outside of the nucleus is this membranous structure called the ER. And when we look at that, there's actually two types of endoplasmic reticulum. And if you look at that picture there, that picture is showing us the two kinds. One is dotted with another structure, and the other one's kind of a smooth, tubular-looking structure. So you have the rough ER, which is the one that has the little bumps on the outside, and those bumps are how it gets its name. And we'll talk about what those are in a sec. And then you got the smooth ER, or the smooth endoplasmic reticulum. Clearly it's smooth because it doesn't have the bumps on it. So the reason we call rough ER rough is because it has ribosomes all over the surface of it. So again, here's my rough ER, the pink membrane, and then all along the surface of the ER are these little dark dots, and those are ribosomes. And we know that the job of the ribosomes is to read the instructions from the nucleus and take those instructions and put the right amino acids in place and link those amino acids to form a protein. So on the rough ER are the ribosomes that are making proteins. Now, once that protein gets made, it has to get shipped someplace. It can't just float around in the cytoplasm. It's like you can't take something that you want to have UPS deliver and just give them the item. It has to be put into a box first. So vesicles are the little membrane-bound packages that hold materials for the cell. So as the ribosome creates proteins, it packages those proteins into a vesicle, which holds the vesicle like a box would or like a container would until it gets to wherever it's supposed to go. Now, that's the main those three things, the nucleus, the rough ER, and vesicles, are kind of the main organelles involved in making proteins, but they are not the only ones. The Golgi apparatus, which you saw in our activity, is also kind of involved in packaging and addressing, if you will, the vesicle, so it ends up going to the right spots. Now, other organelles do other things, though. There are lots of jobs that the cell has to do besides make a product. One of the things that the cell has to do is make energy, right? It has to have enough energy so that the cell can continue to do its work. So the mitochondria, which are those double membrane structures found in all eukaryotic cells, they are supplying energy to the cells, and they do so through cell respiration. Vacuoles are they're bigger than a vesicle, and they contain kind of specific things. So there are different types of vacuoles. There are lysosomes, there are chromoplasts, there are plastids, but that's just the general name for them are vacuoles. They are fluid-filled structures that hold materials for the cell. Then you have the lysosome, which is a specialized vacuole, but it has a very important job. It contains digestive enzymes. So if there is something in the cell that needs to be broken down or disposed of, the lysosomes fuse with it and use their digestive enzymes to break that material down. Another one that does another job there, a different organelle, are centrioles. Centrioles are found in animal cells, and they are tubes of fibers that are organized, and you can see them down here in this picture. This is a top view. It's like, you know, cutting a straw right across the width of it. But this straw is composed of triplets of little fibers. So it's composed of 9 sets of 3 fibers bundled together. And on the side here, you can almost see how those fibers are organized into a structure called the centriole. And that centriole's job is it plays a very big role in mitosis and meiosis, in the separation of chromosomes and separation of the cell. Most of these organelles we are going to be talking about in much greater depth in the next few chapters. So again, our centrioles help the DNA or the chromosomes divide. One other job that the centrioles do is that they used to be called microtubule organizing centers, which meant that their job is to organize the microtubules. And microtubules make up spindle fibers, they make up cilia, they make up flagella. And so the centriole's job is to help organize those tubules into the different jobs that it does. And then when you get into, we're still talking about eukaryotic cells, but plant cells are a specific type of eukaryotic cell, and they have very specific structures within them, like a cell wall and the chloroplast. So the cell wall's job in plant cells is to provide support because plant cells use water pressure as their skeleton, or at least as a hydrostatic skeleton, I guess, if you want to think about it like that. It helps hold up the plant and keep those leaves upright so that it can continue to collect sunlight. So the cell walls are that thicker outer boundary. And yes, most plant cells have very specific kind of structure to them, whether they're rectangular or square or oblong, but they're not amorphous like animal cells tend to be. And then you have the chloroplasts also found in the plant cells. And we know that chloroplasts are another type of organelle that transforms energy, just like the mitochondria turns glucose into ATP. The chloroplast, during cell respiration, the chloroplast turns sunlight into glucose during photosynthesis. Again, we will be digging deeper into all of those shortly.